Danielle and I thought that there was a good opportunity to provide transportation services to a segment of the population that was lacking of services, especially in the pandemic. And that was for people that were disabled and had to use the wheelchair accessible vehicles, which were not available just because of the pandemic. We employ about 2,000 employees. All of our employees or all our drivers are not independent contractors. They are W-2 employees. We pay them directly. We have over 600 vehicles right now in operation that go out every single day in all these locations.
So, before we jump into today's episode, I want to share a quick word from our partners at Terawatt. We all know the future of ride hail and autonomy is electric. New fleets are entering markets and need a base of operations, places to charge up and get back on the road. But they can't afford downtime, and that's where Terawatt infrastructure comes in. They take something complex and expensive, fleet charging infrastructure, and delivers, letting fleets focus on their core business of serving rides. Terawatt is building high powered charging hubs strategically placed right where ride hail demand is its highest. So think about 30 plus fast chargers in a central business district. Now that's a lot of power. Their sites are also designed to optimize AV fleet performance with 98% charger uptime, infrastructure for data offload, and thoughtful layouts that get vehicles in and out fast, all for a monthly fee. You can check them out at terawattinfrastructure.com, and we'll also leave contact information for the company in the show notes. All right, on to the episode. Brothers Daniel and Andres Munoz are the co-founders of Tower Mobility. Daniel has over 30 years of experience in global strategy, innovation, and general management. Andres brings 30 plus years in operations, last mile logistics, and general management, leading teams and large-scale delivery networks at Pepsi, Amazon, and Lyft. Together, they combine Daniel's strategic expertise with Andres's operational and logistics know-how to lead Tower Mobility. All right, gentlemen, how are you guys doing today?
We're doing very good, Harry. Thank you for having us here. We are thrilled to be here.
Definitely. So Tower Mobility is a brand that I know pretty well since you guys are one of the largest fleet providers out there working with rideshare drivers. I'm not sure that everyone in the general rideshare or especially mobility community know about. So I'm excited to have you on, learn about the brand and hear everything that you guys are up to. And I guess my first question though, before we dive into the business, I mean, you guys, in your bio, I guess you each have 30 years of experience. All right, that checks out. You're brothers, so you're born around the same time. You must like each other though, right? If you're working together.
Sometimes we try to like each other, yes.
But Andres, you're in San Francisco, and Daniel, you're in Chicago. So maybe that sort of helps, a little separation. I'm sure you see each other all the time though.
That is correct. That is correct.
Cool. So Andres,
We argue a lot over the phone, so yes.
like any good, sort of business partners should. Andres, I'd love to start with you. Can you tell me about Tower Mobility? What do you guys do? How many cars do you have out there? And also, where do you operate?
Yes. So thank you, Harry. So we started Tower Wave, which later became Tower Mobility, back in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. Danielle and I thought that there was a good opportunity to provide transportation services to a segment of the population that was lacking of services, especially in the pandemic, and that was for people that were disabled and had to use the wheelchair accessible vehicles, which were not available just because of the pandemic. So we partnered at that point in time with Uber here in San Francisco. From then, very quickly, because of word of mouth, we got other TNCs, Lyft and Waymo. Today, we operate in 6 cities. We operate in LA, San Francisco, Portland, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Boston. We employ about 2,000 employees. All of our employees or all our drivers are not independent contractors. They are W-2 employees. We pay them directly. And we have over 600 vehicles right now in operation that go out every single day in all these locations.
Got it. And so that's across all 6 of your markets. And I think you said 2,000 employees, which are basically your drivers. And so that's a pretty different model than most people who, when you think of driving for Uber and Lyft, I signed up. I'm an old guy, I guess. I signed up for Uber and Lyft 11 years ago to be a driver, independent contractor with my own car. I guess what's the main difference when you have W-2 drivers?
I will say that with W2 driving is that you have consistency. You have, because on the independent model, the independent may have worked 2 or 3 hours a day. Maybe when they were on their way to work, they will say, I'm going to do a couple of rides and then I'm going to do a couple of rides. The W-2 model provides a full-time solution, not only for Uber, but also for the drivers as a number one job, because they're getting a salary, on an hourly salary plus tips, plus other compensation. So they know this is a job. It's not a part-time job. It's not a side gig, etc. So it offers solutions and opportunities for both Uber on a consistent revenue basis and also for the drivers.
Got
Yeah,
it. And
no, I was going to add, and I think the word is consistency. It's consistent pay for our drivers. It's consistent reliability for our TNC partners, and it's consistent experience, customer experience for our drivers. I mean, for our riders. If you are in LA and you're taking an electric vehicle, the electric vehicle from us, the majority of them are Tesla Model
yeah,
Y. The experience is the same. The car is always clean. The driver is always dressed in black. The trunk is always clean. It's not packed with other stuff. And the customer experience, we're trying to make it as equal from right to right,
yeah.
so that it creates more willingness and more desire of people to use our cars. We have had many customers, many riders that have said, "Oh, I wish I could ask for your service every time," and that is the consistency that we are creating.
So, when it comes to drivers, what do you think, or who do you think is kind of the perfect profile for someone that should work with Tower in this employee driver fashion? Because obviously, when we talk to drivers, a lot of them love the pay. I mean, they got to get paid. They want to get paid well. They want to make more money, as you know. But then they also love the flexibility, log on, log off, work a lot, work a little. And I'm guessing that you don't get as much flexibility when you're an employee working, even just having a boss, period. Right? You may have a little bit less flexibility in that respect. Do you think it makes sense, this type of job, for every Uber and Lyft driver out there? Or is there a certain person, a certain profile, a certain type of driver that makes the most sense to come and work for Tower?
I will say this is not a part-time job. It's a job that the driver saying, now I know I have an 8-hour job, a job with perhaps with some overtime, that I can come 40 hours a week, work, get compensated, and better yet, like for the work. So we did surveys with drivers and with people that work in the company. Say what are the things that you like the most of about the company? What
Yeah.
brings you coming here, etc. And one thing that resonated is the culture. We created this culture of people. People are number one. Everything is about how do we make people feel good about coming to work. And the number one message that came out of that is, I love this work. I love coming to work at this company.
Yeah. Where do you get most of your drivers from? Are they from existing pools? Someone who's been an Uber and Lyft driver, done, doing 1,000 miles a week on their car. They're kind of fed up of putting miles on their own car and they want to come drive for Tower. Or are you getting them from other, more hospitality industries? What's sort of the main few places that you find your drivers?
So about 50% of our drivers already have some type of experience through either Lyft or Uber. The other 50% are people that want to experience something new. And if I was to add to the previous question, the thing that people like when they enroll with us and they become our employees is that we offer training, extensive training,
Yeah.
throughout their workday, every single day.
Yeah.
There's coaching when they come back. There's coaching, so they feel very supported, and because they feel very supported, their service is really good,
Yeah.
and they're not thinking about leaving. So
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, because I think a lot of people like driving for Uber and Lyft because you don't have a boss, you don't have to do training, but in reality, you really should. I mean, that's why I started my business 11 years ago, because it's not as simple as it looks. You do kind of need to be trained in customer service. There's sort of de-escalation principles. You're dealing with drunk riders, even the safety aspect, right? Driving, not looking at your phone, having a phone mount dash cam. I'm sure a lot of these things that, we've seen on the fleet side. So I guess it is, there probably are a lot of benefits benefits to having, employee drivers that you can, provide training and, kind of that higher level, even though on the surface, maybe a regular driver may not seem like they want it.
Yeah, one thing that you mentioned is benefits. We offer healthcare
Yeah.
benefits. We offer PTO. So our employees, all of them, certain allowed time to go on vacation that is paid.
Yeah.
And when you look at all those things, even though they may seem little,
Hmm.
that's the difference between people that come and work with us and or continue to be independents or go somewhere else. Our benefits are very strong.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit about your operations in Los Angeles. Since I'm sitting here in Los Angeles right now, it sounds like it's one of your bigger markets. What does the fleet size look like? And I guess more importantly, how much might a driver, working for Tower make in Los Angeles?
So so the component that is big is
Hmm.
tips. And we have training for them to increase their tips by thinking more about the customer.
Hmm.
So we have a program that is called Tips for Tips.
Mm.
And that creates anywhere between $2.50 to $8 per hour on a tip level
Nice.
for some of the drivers. And then in addition to that, they get about $19 worth of compensation per hour.
Hmm.
So all in, you're looking at the very bottom, 21.50, 22, but you could be
Hmm.
making $25, $26
Got
easy
it.
because of the tip portion.
And does that include the benefits that you mentioned?
No, that is just straight pay. So
So the
the
benefits are on top of that.
the benefits are on top. The benefits, if there's overtime, that's on top of that. So
Hmm.
if you were to think about it, it's just like straight pay between what they
Yeah.
can earn because of a tip and what we pay is at the bottom 21.50, $22. But I have seen some drivers that make 27, $28 because of tips.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's definitely the big complaint that we've heard from drivers over the years that they don't make enough money. And especially now, Uber has talked about how they have, to investors, they've talked about how we have this large supply of drivers, which sounds great. But, for the individual driver, not always such a good thing if there's a bunch of other drivers out there. Do you find that, those drivers who are out there, working for Uber, doing it themselves, not making enough money, do they come over to Tower and have success?
Absolutely. Actually, there's a pool of drivers that come straight from Uber, and
Hmm.
so the Uber has in their centers where people come in to ask for help. They
Yeah.
have ads for them to come and join our fleet. And so there is a large portion of or a significant portion of drivers that come from Uber that that stability in a job.
Got it. Yeah, let's talk about a little bit more about your partnership with Uber. So it sounds like it started, I mean, I guess when the company started with the Wave, the wheelchair accessible vehicle product in San Francisco. What does the partnership look like right now? Is that what it's called? Is it an Uber partnership or how do
Yes.
they work with you and where?
So 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 since we had validated and basically established the W2 model, we knew how to manage people
Right.
at a some sort of scale. Uber said, you know what, we would like to establish the W2 EV program starting now. And that's how we started, was basically, we were the first fleet in LA with over 400 vehicles, electric vehicles, Teslas, EV9s, and Rivians. To do that. So imagine that for every car, you need 3.8 drivers. So the scale and what the vision for this program is not just 1,000 cars; it's thousands of cars across the U.S. So what we figured out there is that to be able to scale up to those levels, we needed
Hmm.
technology. We needed to develop the technology to manage the drivers and to make sure that we had on time, real time monitoring of everything. safety, performance, compliance, location, etc. So we in 2024 basically we developed the technology.
Mm-hmm.
So we are able to manage that. So and then in addition to that, we developed our own L3 superchargers. We're gonna call them superchargers because they are superchargers. That the average uptime on a supercharger out there is 85%. We are at 86.7%. So our chargers, our superchargers are super. And we have a complete software that we also develop to make sure that we manage that with the fleet. And so the partnership with Uber is not only the technology that we have developed, is that charging infrastructure that we have invented, created, and developed and deployed. And also we have created a recruitment machine. So right now we have the ability to upload and train about 300 drivers a week. In 2024, we reviewed 40,000 candidates.
Wow.
And we employed over 3,300 drivers, which is incredible. That in 10 months in 2024, we developed a tech platform. We have our own superchargers, and then we created this recruiting machine. So that's where with the value that we bring to Uber.
Got it. So, I mean, I know that everybody, I probably get an email a day asking me, oh, we want to partner with Uber. Companies talking about how valuable a partnership with Uber is. What is the most valuable part about, for you guys about partnering with Uber? It sounds like, you sort of work with them. They send you demand, basically, right? Obviously, all of the rides. Or maybe some of the rides, all of the rides, you can tell me. And then, of course, it sounds like they provide drivers. I think I've been in the Uber vehicle marketplace before and seen the tower option, where you can rent a Tesla, you can basically become an employee driver and, make money driving a Tesla Model Y for towers. So are those kind of the two big things, or talk a little bit about, kind of what are the main benefits to tower with the Uber partnership?
So I think the main things that Uber brings into this partnership is we don't have to think about selling our services to it. The demand is there, and I would say to an extent is infinite demand. So we don't have to worry about getting rights. The other piece that I think is super important is the support that we get. Is like I have not seen in any other corporation where I have worked with, where this is really a true partnership. They're providing a lot of product work, a lot of input, a lot of insights, a lot of feedback to really develop an operating machine that is unique. With that, over the last year, we have learned a lot. We have improved a lot. We have tools today that we have jointly developed that are getting us to a better spot and to a level that it becomes a very sustainable model.
And one thing I may add is that there's no preferential. If you're an independent, you have the same opportunity of getting a rider as we do. And it's all based on performance. I mean, our acceptance is 99%. Our cancellations have less than 1%. So we get every single ride, we accept every single ride, and very few we cancel very few rides.
Yes.
So that gives us the ability to be there. But if you're an independent driver, you have the same opportunity as we do. If you do that.
Right. Well, I imagine this is, that consistent experience. I'm guessing that's one thing that Uber really likes about partnering, with Tower and other fleet providers, because, otherwise, they get maybe hairy, they get maybe someone who's new, right? Maybe a nice car, maybe a poor car, when it comes to customer, maybe they do cancel, right? Like you said. So that consistent experience is pretty important. What do you think is in it for Uber with this partnership? I have to imagine that. And then also, as we've seen over the past couple of years, the insurance piece, and we could talk a little bit about that, because I know Uber is doing a lot of stuff these days with individual drivers, where they want them to go out and get commercial insurance. So it seems like that's a big opportunity for them right now.
So what is in it for them? So definitely the consistency and the reliability that we bring.
Hmm.
I think from an insurance perspective, because we can manage the the driver's behavior in a better way than when you have an independent. Our
Yeah.
safety program is amazing. Day after day, we have less notifications of wrongdoing from
Hmm.
a driver, and a wrongdoing can be as
What's one
little.
thing that you do at a like what's one specific thing you do at a fleet level that you think has a positive impact on safety for your drivers that makes them get into less accidents or something like that?
So so we monitor all our drivers via cameras.
Hmm.
We do that real time. We provide feedback as long as there is no rider in the car
Got it.
as we see events. And then at the end, well, at the beginning of every shift,
Hmm.
we huddle the teams and we have a huddle team that we talk about just safety and maybe
Got it.
one or two things that are key for the day. And then during the day, we monitor them. And then at the end of the day, our drivers are also coached on the different things that we saw that could have created a situation, an unsafe situation. So we do this with the intent to
Hmm.
reduce those events day after day, and we have done that day after day. Most of our insurance companies that we have had, not only on EV but also on Wave,
Yeah.
are praising us for what we have done on the insurance. I mean, on the safety side, because of the monitoring, the coaching that we do every single day.
Hmm. Got it.
And
So,
on that events like speeding, 1 mile per speed limit is speeding.
yeah.
There is no, oh, maybe 1 mile, 2 miles. No, 1 mile speed limit is speeding. It's you're rolling out, and the thing is that so many drivers are when they come in first, they are used to rolling stops or speeding 5, 10 miles an hour. You have to really train
Yeah.
people. You know that's not the right way to drive.
Yeah.
That's not safe way to drive. You drive at the speed limit. You stop at stop signs. You don't just do a rolling
Well, I
stop.
think the one of the big benefits that of the hourly pay model is that, as an independent contractor, as a Uber driver, I'm actually incentivized to go fast, right? If it's a yellow light and I speed through it, I'm going to get my passenger to their destination quicker, which means I can do more trips per hour and make more money per hour, right? If I'm driving for Tower, I don't need to speed through that yellow light, right? I kind of do care what is safe. Hey, my
100%.
bosses are going to yell at me if I try speed through this yellow light. I'm going to drive safe and get them safely to their destination, which, you kind of understand in the short term. That's why drivers do it. But in the long term, if you're avoiding accidents and, more costly things, that's probably a bigger, sort of benefit to the company and the drivers.
100%. 100%, Henry. I think safety, as we said, is number one. And
Hmm.
in the long run, and we are seeing it on the premiums of insurance, etc., it
Yeah.
is super beneficial, which for Uber, it's a big plus.
Yeah. Interesting. So you guys mentioned that you have 600 vehicles in the fleet, I believe. You have Tesla, Rivian, Kia. I think that right now with the kind of big wave of autonomous vehicles rolling out, fleet management is in again, right? Fleet management is sexy now, right? People that own lots of cars are very popular these days. So I would love to know, talk a little bit about your experience as a fleet manager and, maybe what's the hardest part of owning 600 cars?
So I will say that the foundation of a man fleet is not different than what you need for an AD fleet. You
Hmm.
need the cars to come in, get clean, maintain, make sure that the tires are okay, that the batteries are fully charged, that everything is working. The only difference between what we do today and what in the future will be an autonomous vehicle fleet is that the drivers,
Hmm.
but you still need everything else except the driver. And
What's something that your drivers do today that, won't be around, that'll be kind of missing in the AV future that you think is really important?
I think as you think about customer experience, if
Mhm.
if you're going to the airport,
Yeah.
sometimes the rider expects the driver to come out and take the bag and put it in the trunk.
Yeah.
With an AV, that is no longer going to be that. So I would say that the human factor is always good. it should always be maintained. But I think the trade-offs that will happen, most passengers will do the trade-off and will continue to adapt to the AV model.
Got it. What's been the hardest part of fleet management for you as a company? Where have you had the most growing pains when it comes to those 600 vehicles?
I think it's a balance between safety, compliance, performance, costs. Is all the combination because you're always pounding safety, safety, safety is number one. But then you have you guys have to take your breaks, your meal breaks. Don't miss your meal breaks. That's the law.
Yeah.
And and then you have to, if you're aware, you're working. You're not going to the beach
Mhm.
to do other things. So you have to make sure that all those balances of safety, compliance, cost, performance are there all the time. That's
Mhm.
the key. And of course, when the performance and you're dealing with people. So in all those things, you're always like, are you driving safely? Are you doing your job? Are you taking your breaks? All these things, managing large groups of people under that requires a lot of things. Requires the technology that we have developed, etc. So that's
Yeah.
when you don't have that, and even when you have that, it's still very difficult to manage because you're managing people.
Got it. And the fleet you mentioned, I think that you have 400, it sounds like, is the whole fleet EVs or what's the breakdown look like? I think you mentioned you might have 400 Tesla Model Ys in LA. I know there's a lot because I see them all over the place in LA, but to talk a little bit about the fleet breakdown and what type of vehicles you're using and what you like.
So yes, Harry, about 400 and well, close to 450 are Teslas, Model Ys.
Gotcha.
And we only have a few EV9s because when we acquired the Teslas, the EV9s were not available back then. And then when we
Mhm.
acquired the EV9s, we could not get a hold of too many. We acquired over 20 Rivians
Mhm.
that between the EV9s, the Kia EV9s, and the Rivians, they produce a wider product because they can provide the XL or the black SUV model versus a Model Y only produces up to a old black. So that is what we have on the E fleet. On on the Wave side, we have close to 200 vehicles that are all kind of different brands: so Dodge Caravan, Chrysler, Mercedes Metris, Toyota Siennas. We have different types: side entry, rear entry, just depending on the needs or the regulations of different cities.
Okay. So if we focus on the sort of more traditional, rideshare Uber X or, Uber fleet of EVs, I mean, it sounds like your entire fleet is EVs. Do you think it makes sense? I know there's fleet owners out there that, use hybrids or, I think Toyota Camry is a popular model too. Do you think it is kind of a slam dunk these days to have EVs? Or is there still a financial or, other argument to have some non-EVs?
We had some Camrys as a pilot.
Mhm.
There is no way I would get another Camry.
Hmm.
I think the EV is the way to go. It's
Got
less maintenance. If you have the infrastructure like we do, then for us, it's really easy. So absolutely, electric vehicles is the way to go. The Toyota Camry is a nice vehicle,
Yeah.
but in the long run,
What's the biggest kind of savings? Is it less maintenance work when the EVs?
it's less maintenance, and also electric vehicles. The prices of electric vehicles have been coming down. Up until September 30th, there was also the benefit of the tax credit of $7,500, which made it more accessible. But even without that, the less maintenance, which is a lot of money,
Hmm. Yeah.
and gas versus the cost of a kilowatt. There is a discrepancy there that benefits an electric vehicle.
What is the typical savings for, let's say a driver that you have in LA, let's say they're doing 1,000 miles a week. What would they save, doing EV with, kind of gas versus kilowatt? Or, you can talk about just the charging costs if you kind of know that offhand broadly.
That's a good question.
I think it's a hard question to answer right
Yeah.
now because of our ramp up.
Got it.
costs.
Yeah, I guess not to put you on the spot, but I think I'm just curious kind of in the, if they're doing 1,000 miles a week, maybe you don't know, there's a lot of
Yeah.
costs that go into it, but like, I guess what's do you need to be saving 10%? Do you need to be saving 20, 50? What's the kind of number that you think that, it's like, okay, we did all this work on the EV side and, I kind of want to ask you about the charging infrastructure. It
Yeah,
sounds like you put in.
yeah, so I will say that if you are a fleet owner,
Hmm.
it will, and depending on the scale, if you're gonna have 5 cars and you have
Yeah.
your spouse driving one, you driving one, and the other 3 are gonna be driven by your kids.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a Camry or a Chevy or
Hmm.
the, but if you are in a 1,000 car fleet,
Yeah.
where you need ultimate efficiency and operational excellence, you need to have those vehicles that are able to perform to the highest efficiencies possible. And
Got
that for us, that's the EV.
So you think 300 cars, you can kind of get away with maybe non-EVs?
No, it will have to be less than that.
Less than that. Okay, then you want to start thinking about EVs.
I will say that once you move over 10 cars, yeah, and if you're not driving and operating from cars,
10
you have
cars, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andre, agree with that?
Yeah, directionally, yes. It's to answer your question on Camry versus EV or EV versus gas. It's difficult because I can dig into it, but we stopped using Camrys back in in November. It's
Well,
not.
we don't have to keep throwing Camrys under the bus, but I think the
Or a gas vehicle. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I guess the interesting question that I think that there's this notion out there that EVs are, so much better, charging and this and that. And I think it's a lot more depends situational, especially for an individual driver, right? If you happen to live in a house kind of nearby, high demand areas where you work, if you have solar panels on your roof and you can charge overnight, you have a level 2 charger in your house that does 30 to 40 miles an hour, you're probably going to make a lot more money with an EV versus a ICE, right? But that's pretty rare for most Uber and Lyft drivers. So now, okay, what if, you have a charger nearby, right? So it's sort of like, it kind of gets, I'm kind of curious where you guys are at. It sounds like you've got a fleet of hundreds of EVs. Do you have charging at the depots where drivers pick up, or how does that work?
Yes. So
Yes. But I was doing simple math. If you do 1,000 miles and the vehicle is doing 25 miles per gallon at 425, you're spending about $150 for those 1,000 miles.
Got it.
If you were to do those 1,000 miles with an EV, it will probably cost you around $75.
Got it. So that's pretty good savings every week.
It's half the difference.
Yeah.
Now, to your other question about, yes, we have our own EV infrastructure at our hubs. So we charge at our locations.
Oh, hold on. You've got your superchargers, right?
Yeah.
So and the way they look like the Star Wars R2-D2s. So they're compact.
And I mean, I imagine there's a lot of cost that goes into installing those into your depots, right? And so you're sort of just banking on the fact that with those chargers, I mean, I guess what are the options for fleets with EVs? Like you kind of have to install a charger or, have somewhere where they can charge, right?
That is correct. Unless you want to use the retail available chargers, which you have a lot of issues with that.
It gets really expensive very quickly.
Right. And I guess you kind of need the charging at your depot.
Yes.
Or nearby. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And it's very, very, thinking into the future, into the AV future, you need that because you need that the ability to charge, clean, and everything else, all the AV vehicles that come in and go out. And you have
Got it. Well, I think, the last topic that I wanted to ask you on, Daniel, is perfect segue. I'm curious, what are Tower's future plans, especially with the advent of AVs? What are you guys thinking about? Do you think they're, going to kind of be here? You're kind of worrying about it right now? Are you laying the groundwork? Obviously, there's a lot of interest in AVs, right? Waymo is here in Los Angeles. You mentioned, are you a partner of Waymo's or how does that work?
So we do right now business with Waymo on the and we have had conversations also on the maintenance side.
Got
Nothing
it.
has come to fruition. However, how we see the vision in the future is that technology companies will be technology companies,
Hmm.
and fleet maintenance companies will be fleet maintenance companies. And right now, the technology companies own the assets and are giving out the maintenance of those assets. I
Hmm.
would say that in the near future, the assets are going to be owned by fleet managing companies like ours. So
Got it.
lots of Chinese, Japanese companies coming out with AVs, and they have to prove the safety data to regulators to get their cars approved, like Waymo.
Got it.
So there's going to be a lot of, from Tesla to
Mhm.
BYDs to
Yeah.
all the Japanese companies coming here with autonomous vehicles that are going to be available for us or any other fleet company to purchase as a vehicle to provide that service to the technology companies like Uber, Lyft, and others.
Hmm. Got it.
So Harry, at the end of the day, yes, we are setting the foundation to support AVs. We
Hmm.
may replace our current EVs with an AV vehicle, even though we have Teslas and the development of that. But we are very aligned with the EV infrastructure that is required. We also have on site workshops for the maintenance and
Hmm.
the repairs of vehicles. Yes, you may have less vehicles in the AV model that are involved in an accident, but they will happen. And
Someone
then
else might hit
also,
them.
yes, and also as we think about cleanliness and
Hmm.
making sure that vehicles are cleaned, we also have in our own locations cleaning stations that,
Yeah.
regardless if it's a manned vehicle or an AV vehicle, it will be clean. So we're setting the foundation and the infrastructure
Hmm.
to take care of everything that an AV fleet would require into the future.
Got it. So it sounds like the sweet spot for tower mobility in this AV future will be potentially owning the AV, maintaining and cleaning them, charging them also, like you mentioned. And I think the other thing that is interesting is the people, right? I mean, all of the employees that you have right now that are driving, they may not love the idea of, switching over to cleaning or maintenance, but I think that idea of hiring, employees, I mean, someone's got to clean them, someone's got to maintain, maybe there's other roles. I think that's kind of the other. Does that sound about right for as far as, kind of the main value prop that you can provide in an AV future?
That is correct. And I think that there's always going to be man vehicles to a certain level. I mean, it's not going to be, I mean, unless we're talking 50 years from now. But I think in the near mid future, there will always be a place for a manned vehicle and then
Yeah.
a place for a navy. So there's got to be a combination. So,
Well,
Yeah, and I think the big thing for me is, I always like to bring this stat, right? Waymo's doing 250,000 trips per week, and I think Uber's doing over 250 million trips per week around the globe, right? So the scale is quite different. Even though Waymo seem like they're everywhere, they're still pretty small relative to Uber's global footprint. And I think that there are, so I'm always thinking about what are the opportunities now, with human drivers where you can kind of, or human rideshare, we can lay the groundwork for an AV future. Who knows how long it's going to take or, when or where, but I think there are a lot of, EV charging, right? Obviously, all of these AVs are EV, but I think you guys have a few interesting opportunities too with the wheelchair accessible vehicles. I don't think that's going to be automated for a very long time. I think I saw on your website that you also do non-emergency medical transport. I'm maybe there's some crossover with Wave there and then airport rides. So I feel like there's actually some interesting kind of human powered segments today that will maybe be, the last or maybe even never be automated. So I guess if I was a fleet owner like yourself, I might be, kind of maybe I invest a little extra in some of those categories to hedge against AVs in the future.
100%. You said it very well.
yes.
Okay, cool. Well, all right. Well, we ended with a little mini strategy session on AVs for fleet owners. So hopefully everyone enjoyed that. I really appreciate you guys both coming on. We'll leave a link in the show notes to both of your profiles. And then if folks want to learn more about Tower, I believe the website is towermobility.com. Does that sound right?
That is correct. Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate you having on.